here we are actually going to listen to Elon Musk talk about the problems Twitter is in. This is a conversation between Elon and George Hotz, who is a famous hacker.
Okay, but well, thank you for acknowledging that.
I think we won't get to the refactor if we don't make these changes.
Why?
Because we just be bankrupt.
What's the runway?
Could I jump in with a quick question to cut the runway silence there?
So you're thinking, what is the refactor? So refactoring is a process of restructuring the code, but keeping everything running the same. You can basically clean up the code, make it simpler to use, efficient and so on. Why is this important? Because according to George, it takes a long time to do anything. It's not efficient, and Twitter is in a lot of trouble. Elon wants to add features, but you can't add features because everything's connected, everything's so slow. And since he fired so many developers...
What percentage of your staff did you fire at Twitter? One of the great business stories of the year.
I think we're about 20% of the original size.
So 80% left.
Yes.
The best guys to keep are the older guys with a lot of experience. You should be surrounded by great people because they keep everybody in check and they know a lot of stuff, they know everything. Senior developers to work quickly, efficiently and being very quality oriented. Quality, nothing Elon knows anything about. Will Twitter go bankrupt? How much runway do they actually have? Let's ask Elon.
Because of the nature of this transaction, where there's $12.5 billion of debt and the Fed rate has been going crazy, there's on the order of $1.5 billion-ish of debt servicing that's required. So we're talking about like net cash outflow, if you didn't make any changes, of on the order of like $6.5 billion next year, with revenue probably tracking to 3. So that's like a negative cash flow situation of $3 billion a year. Not good. Since Twitter has $1 billion in cash. So that's why I spent the last 5 weeks cutting costs like crazy.
So let's do a recap. That's 6.5 billion in costs per year. Why is Twitter using so much money? Twitter has only posted 2 years of profits in 8 years, and the highest was 1.2 billion in 2018. Elon has to repeat that. So Elon has to repeat what Twitter did in 2018. He has to make 1.5 billion just for the debt service payment. So this is what's happening at Twitter right now. They are in a lot of trouble. A lot. Will it work out? I think Elon's wondering like, what the hell have I got myself into? This is so complex. They have to do something to generate income. I'm gonna actually talk about it at the end of this video, give them some advice. In the book, he says they built tents outside of the factory just to deliver cars, which is kind of funny. And it worked. He delivered 5,000 cars to Wall Street and he got additional money, raised enough capital. Now you're seeing Elon moving into Twitch, YouTube, and who knows if YouTube is making money. I've never seen YouTube post profits, only revenue. So who knows if this is profitable. Since inflation has shown up, investors around the world are now looking for yield. Basically, they're looking for if your company is making money or losing money. Revenue is not important anymore. In this video, you're gonna hear me talk about economics a lot. So Elon needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat. He needs a Hail Mary, basically. He needs what he did with Tesla Model 3 cars. He needs tents outside of Twitter. So let's check in how Twitter is doing right now. And it's not going very well.
Basically, you're in a plane that is headed towards the ground at high speed with the engines on fire and the controls don't work.
I use the same analogy at comma. Can we afford good food?
Yeah.
Basically, they're on verge of bankruptcy, and if they have another blue checkmark fiasco, it's over. And the thing is, they're rushing everything. When you rush everything, mistakes do happen. Fired people and done all sorts of different things. This is what happens when you rush things, especially on huge platforms like Twitter. As I've read Elon Musk's book, in the book he says that he usually cuts costs as far as possible. There are limits of how much you can cut costs.
Can't stand about the car, and that's build quality.
If you cut costs too much, it goes over and the whole company, and then the good people leave. But if your company is not profitable, you have to cut costs.
With the changes that we're making here on massively reducing the burn rate and building subscriber revenue, I now think that Twitter will in fact be okay next year. I think we will be about hopefully sort of roughly cash flow break even. That's what I expect for next year. But this will be difficult, but I think that's where what will happen. It's roughly cash flow break even as opposed to minus $3 billion ish on with $1 billion of cash, which would be therefore dead. So that's the reason for my actions. They may seem sometimes spurious or odd or whatever. Is because this is not, we have an emergency fire drill in our hands. That's the reason. Not because I am like naturally capricious or at least aspirationally I'm not naturally capricious. But if you sort of, if you say, you're looking at it from my standpoint and you're saying, okay, wow, this company is like basically you're in a plane that is headed towards the ground at high speed with the engines on fire and the controls don't work.
Thanks for flying with us. Have a great day.
Yeah, so Elon was really telling you the truth here. It's not going very well over there. Later in this video we will check how long did they keep this boat alive. How many pennies can they burn on this sinking Titanic? And why Twitter is losing so much money. Let me explain. If this issue between the two countries I don't want to mention gets resolved, inflation will cool down, the central banks will lower rates, and we will have another boom. So the lower the interest rates go, the less debt Twitter will have to pay. So if the interest rates goes down again, as we had for a long time now, their debt service payments will be very low, which will have them additional capital to reinvest in the company and pull out. I'm going to predict that the next few years of Elon Musk's life are gonna be one of the most difficult in his life. As he said, this is an extremely difficult situation, so... And he has made kind of a fool of himself with the Twitter fiasco. And since we already know that they're kind of desperate and they're rushing through things, they will probably make a lot of mistakes. He needs revenue from advertising, he needs revenue from a subscription, and he needs not to make any mistakes. The funny things here, we're just talking about the problems with Twitter, but Twitter is not the only company he is the CEO of. And then he has full self-driving and all the stuff with Tesla. And then on top of that, he has SpaceX and he has to deliver rockets to space shuttle and plan for Mars.
We want to try to fly 4
so here
ships.
we have him promising 2024 to fly
crewed.
4 ships on top of Twitter, Tesla, full self-driving and everything else. Will this actually work? I highly doubt it, because he spread himself so thin everywhere. I start to think, why is he doing this? I suspect this, he never got enough hugs from his father, so he's just trying to get his father admiration. It's sad actually. So hug your kids, parents, it's the most important job you have. As this all ends in one giant inferno, we should remember that Elon is still a kid in his head. This is all done to get his father's attention, and he never got it.
Yeah. Wait, all right, so I'm like, refactors, food, how about free speech?
Well, I mean, free speech, let me tell you that if somebody's got to pay the servers, okay? So the speech has got to cost at least $8.
But you've described yourself.
I don't care about the economics at all.
Pay the servers, okay? So the speech has got to cost at least $8. Because otherwise, how do we pay the friggin' server bill? You know, there's like $1.5 billion-ish, you know, of all-in server-related costs. And, you know, we're trying to get that lower, but it's a lot. It's like not trivial. And a minimum, you know, like there's like, somebody's got to pay the bills. Advertising for sure, but there's some degree of subscriptions. And then on the speech front, like my general philosophy on that is that we should hew close to the law in any given country. You know, so Yeah.
Elon, that makes me so happy if that's actually what the policy is. I'm upset when I see Paul Graham get banned for mentioning Mastodon.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do some math and see if Twitter can actually pull this off. Because this is quite important. We're literally gonna calculate if Musk can do this or not. So he says they're burning 4 million per day multiplied 365 days a year. That's 1.5 billion. So he's telling the truth. That's why he's saying he thinks they're gonna break even. So this all depends on the interest rate, how the interest rate is. If the Fed continues to fight inflation, which it should, this 1.5 billion gonna go up and advertising gonna go down. Income in advertising. So for him and Twitter, this all depends on the interest rate. If it keeps going up, this is gonna be extremely hard to do. It's like doubling the problems. So that's why you see him complaining about the interest rate. They're literally balancing on the knife's edge. Can it be done? Actually, I think it could. Because the American government is more broke than Twitter. And they can't service their debt, even the United States. So it's in the United States interest to cut rates. So I suspect they're gonna cut rates again. If the rate goes down to 0, this thing goes away. This is not gonna be a problem. If the central bank lower rates again, they release mass inflation in the country, but it will take a long time, just like Argentina did take a long time. And it would be a huge mistake to do so. It's the wrong thing to do for the poor and middle class and everybody who doesn't know this. Basically, they will make everybody super poor and destroy the country. So it's the wrong thing to do. To see what happens when you lower rates, you can check my next video about how I predicted the collapse of Argentina. Or you could check my other Twitter video, which is a funny one. The one to make you laugh after this depressing stuff. So you can just sit back and watch the whole thing implode. And it's kind of sad, because he did all of this to get his father's hugs, admiration and attention. He never got as a kid. Parents can really damage a kid. We are lucky that we got everything we needed from our parents.